Hi, Emily Summers here, and I'm doing internet safety reflection. And the first question is, why is internet safety so important, and what is my role as an educator in teaching internet safety? Um, Internet safety is so important because basically the internet is so intertwined into what students are doing, whether it's at school or at home. This day and age, internet is used for everything: communication, work, school, everything: music, videos, TV. Who would have thought that in this day and age, you can watch TV through the internet. It's everywhere. And then my role as an educator in teaching internet safety, I think is something I hadn't considered before, but is definitely important. I think that it's something to be tread lightly because, especially with elementary children, you can't get too detailed or too into certain things like sexting and things like that, but definitely teaching privacy, the manners, online manners, things like that, just, takes a step into internet safety. And that's how I would approach it as an elementary school teacher. But I think the grade that you teach is also important to how you move forward. For example, I'm hoping to teach second or third grade, and I think that teaching online etiquette, talking about privacy, just things like that, cyberbullying, what it is, how it can happen. I think those things are important for those grades. But I think once you get into fourth and definitely fifth, it needs to be more in depth. It needs to be about sexting. It needs to be about cyberbullying and on a whole nother level. So I think depending on what grade you teach will kind of direct how you go about it. The NetSmarts training program, I found it very useful, especially as a parent of an 11-year-old. Something that I will probably start really using with her and with all of my kids. And there's just a wealth of knowledge there, and the resources I was really impressed with. So that's what I think is definitely useful. And I think it's relevant for all ages of educators, and no matter what grade you're teaching, there's something on there that can be used. And I found it very useful and will use it in some way, shape, or form. Let's see. Going into the article, there was just a lot of information there that I thought was useful. I did think that they mentioned a survey about cyberbullying, and it was a survey they did about a little over 13,000 students in 31 schools in 12 states. And it was basically that they said that when a school was built a clear definition of respectful behavior with meaningful student involvement, most students will uphold and follow those behavioral standards. So I found that interesting because sometimes I think that we don't give kids the amount of credit that's due for us as educators or administration when we create policy. Involving them and making it meaningful and actually following through does have a positive effect. And that they said that on the flip side of that, when you have a zero tolerance kind of fear of doing something, that it kind of has the opposite effect, that they don't really take it as seriously and they don't get behind that policy as much. So I found that really interesting. And probably my takeaway from the article is just the importance of explaining to students about privacy, and that privacy does matter. That's something I think that they're just really, I think the article used the word too nonchalant about, just really naive. And it's definitely something I'm going to be speaking to my kids about, especially my middle school daughter. She actually last year in fifth grade was bullied online and threatened. And it's something that I think I was naive as a parent, thinking that fifth graders wouldn't do this, and that her having an iPod, she doesn't have a phone, but she has an iPod, and, being on an app, and just was unaware and completely naive that fifth grade students would do that to each other. And so privacy is something that's really important. And even to the point where if you know that there's some sort of issue with another student or another child, that they can block that person, and just puts an end to it, at least on that avenue. So I think that's it overall. I feel like every time I do one of these, there's something that I can take away and use. So this one was definitely useful on many different levels.